Hello, my friends, and welcome. I'm so glad you've decided to join me tonight. Before we begin, I want you to take a moment to settle in. Dim the lights, find your most comfortable chair, and leave the busyness of the world behind. While you're getting settled, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. Your engagement truly helps, and the more you interact, the more these chilling tales will find their way back to your feed. Tonight, we're stepping into the shadows to share a few stories that are as true as they are unsettling. So, take a deep breath, get cozy, and let's explore the dark together. Sarah was 29 years old. She loved her daughter more than anything. She loved helping people at the hospital. She loved bad reality TV and pumpkin spice lattes, and sending me random memes at 2 in the morning. She deserved to live. She deserved to be free. She deserved to raise her daughter in peace. Instead, she is dead, killed by the man who promised to love her. Killed because he could not stand the thought of her leaving. Killed because he had an app that let him listen to her final moments. I need to tell you about my best friend, Sarah Mitchell, and I need to tell you about the app that killed her. This is not about ghosts or monsters. This is about technology. This is about the phone in your pocket, the tablet your child uses, the devices you trust every single day. This is about how easily those devices can be turned into weapons, and how many women are dying because nobody wants to talk about it. Sarah was 29 years old, a radiology technician at Portland General Hospital, with a 2-year-old daughter named Emma. She was smart, cautious, careful. She had been planning to leave her husband Robert for 6 months. She had a lawyer. She had an escape plan. She had a safe place to go. On March 8, 2025, Robert murdered Sarah and her friend Daniel in their San Diego apartment. He shot them both in the head as they sat on the couch, laughing, planning Sarah's new life. Robert had been listening to every word they said through an app he had installed on their daughter's iPad. I am Sarah's best friend. I am the person she called when things got bad. I am the one who helped her find a divorce lawyer. I am the one who told her she deserved better. And I am the one who was supposed to meet her that day. But I was running late. If I had been there 10 minutes earlier, Robert would have killed me too. Or maybe if I had been there, he would not have done it at all. That is what keeps me awake at night. That is what I think about every single day. But this is not about my guilt. This is about what happened to Sarah and what is happening to thousands of women right now. Women who do not even know they are being watched. Sarah met Robert in 2020. She was 24, working at a hospital in Seattle, living her life. Robert was 31, a physical trainer with 70,000 followers on Instagram. He was charming, funny, attentive. He took her to nice restaurants. He remembered small details about her day. He made her feel special. They got married in 2021. Emma was born in 2023. And somewhere in between those two events, Robert changed. Or maybe he did not change. Maybe he just stopped hiding who he really was. The first time Sarah told me about the abuse was in September of 2024. We were having coffee at our usual place in downtown Portland, and she pulled up her sleeve to show me a bruise on her arm. Purple, finger-shaped, unmistakable. He grabbed me, she said quietly. I told him I wanted to spend Sunday with my mom, and he lost it. Said I was choosing my family over him. Said I did not respect him. I told her to leave. Right then. Pack a bag and leave. But Sarah said it was not that simple. She had a daughter to think about. She had to do this the right way. She needed a lawyer, needed documentation, needed to build a case. I am going to leave him, she said. But I have to be smart about it. He cannot know until I am ready. Sarah started documenting everything. Every argument, every threatening text message, Every time Robert showed up at her workplace, unannounced. Every time he accused her of cheating when she was just at the grocery store. Every time he went through her phone looking for evidence of affairs that did not exist. She filled out a questionnaire at the hospital after Robert showed up at her work and cornered her in the parking lot. The questions were from a domestic violence assessment tool, standard procedure for cases like hers. I saw the form later, after everything happened. Saw her answers written in her careful handwriting. Do you believe your partner could kill you? Yes. Has your partner ever told you how they plan to kill you? Yes. Has your partner ever tried to strangle you? Yes. What caused your partner to become violent? Jealousy. Has your partner ever been violent toward or threatened to harm your children? No, but I am afraid he will. She had answered yes to almost every warning sign. She was the textbook definition of a woman in danger. And yet, nothing was done. No arrest was made. No protection order was issued. She was told to file a police report if anything else happened. Something else did happen. Robert killed her 3 weeks later. Here is what I did not know until after Sarah died. Here is what nobody knew except Robert. He had been monitoring her for months, maybe longer. He had installed a spyware app on her phone, on her laptop, on Emma's iPad. The apps had names like System Process and Android Update and Screen Time Manager. They looked like legitimate parts of the operating system. Sarah would have had no idea they were there. Through these apps, Robert could see everything. Every text message, every email, every phone call, every website she visited, every photo she took. He could see her location at all times. He could turn on her microphone and listen to her conversations. He could activate her camera and watch her without her knowledge. The detective who investigated Sarah's murder told me that Robert had dashboard access to all of this information. He would log in from his laptop or his phone and see everything Sarah was doing. Where she was, who she was talking to, what she was saying. He knew Sarah had hired a divorce lawyer. He knew she was looking at apartments. He knew she had opened a separate bank account. He knew everything. And when Sarah finally decided she was ready to leave, when she finally told Robert it was over and he needed to move out, he knew exactly what to do. On the morning of March 8th, Robert went to their apartment while Sarah was at work. He used the key card he had copied before Sarah changed the locks. He smashed dishes. He threw her clothes down the garbage chute. He vandalized the place. And then he hid Emma's iPad in a vent in the living room, set to transmit audio through Discord, a messaging app that lets you stream live audio and video. Sarah came home that afternoon with Daniel, a friend from work who had offered to help her pack. They sat on the couch. They talked about Sarah's new apartment, about custody arrangements, about how Emma would adjust to having 2 homes. They laughed. They drank coffee. They had no idea Robert was listening to every word from a hotel room 6 miles away. Robert heard Sarah say she was done with him. Heard her say she felt free for the first time in years. Heard her laugh with another man in the apartment that used to be his. He got in his car. He drove to the apartment. He took the elevator up to the 35th floor. He used his copied key card to get in. Security cameras in the hallway captured what happened next. Robert entering the apartment. 6 gunshots. Robert screaming Sarah's name. Robert calling his mother to tell her what he had done. Sarah died instantly. Daniel died minutes later. Emma was at daycare, safe, unaware that her mother would never pick her up again. Robert was arrested 3 hours later. He confessed immediately. Said he snapped. Said he could not handle the betrayal. Said Sarah had driven him to it by planning to leave him. But the evidence showed otherwise. The evidence showed Robert had been planning this for a long time. The detectives found his search history. How to get away with murder. How to dispose of a body. How to make a death look like self-defense. He had Googled these things dozens of times over several weeks. He had photos of Sarah and Daniel's bodies saved on his phone. Photos he took after he shot them, before he called the police. The detectives think he was going to post them online. Some kind of revenge against Sarah for leaving him. The trial was in August of 2025. Robert was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. The jury took less than 3 hours to decide. The judge gave him life without parole, 2 consecutive sentences. He will die in prison. But that does not bring Sarah back. That does not undo what happened. And here's the thing that makes me sick. Here's the thing that makes me want to scream every time I think about it. Sarah is not alone. In 2013, a woman named Melissa Torres and her 2 children, 9-year-old Ashley and 8-year-old Michael, disappeared from their home in Deltona, Florida. Her husband, Luis, had been monitoring her phone using spyware. He knew she was having an affair. He knew she was planning to leave him. On October 22, 2013, Luis confronted Melissa at her workplace. He slapped her in front of her coworkers. The police were called. Melissa filled out the same domestic violence assessment questionnaire that Sarah would fill out years later. She answered yes to almost every question. She said she believed Luis could kill her. She said he had threatened her life. The police told her to go home and they would follow up. They did not arrest Luis that day. Luis killed Melissa and her 2 children that night. Their bodies have never been found. Melissa's mother still holds vigils every year, begging Luis to tell them where he buried her daughter and grandchildren. He has never said a word. He is serving life in prison, and Melissa's family has no closure. In 2017, a woman named Jennifer Walsh was murdered by her ex-boyfriend in Boston. He had been tracking her using Find My iPhone, an app meant for locating lost devices. He knew everywhere she went. He knew when she was alone. He used that information to ambush her in her apartment parking lot. She died from stab wounds before paramedics could save her. In 2023, a woman named Amanda Cole was murdered by her husband in Dallas. He had installed a stalkerware app on her phone months earlier. He knew she was having an affair. He knew she was planning to leave him. He killed her and the man she was seeing, then called the police and claimed self-defense. Security footage proved he was lying. He is now serving 25 years. These are not isolated incidents. These are not rare cases. According to the National Network to End Domestic Violence, 85% of domestic violence shelters in the United States report working with victims whose abusers track them using GPS. 75% report working with victims whose abusers eavesdropped on their conversations using hidden mobile apps. 85%, 75%. This is happening everywhere. This is happening right now. And most people do not even know it exists. The apps are called stalkerware or spyware. They are marketed under innocent-sounding names. Family Locator, Kid Monitor, Screen Time Control. They claim to be for parents who want to keep their children safe online. But they are designed with features that make them perfect for abusive partners. They hide themselves in your phone's system files. They disguise their icons to look like legitimate apps. They use minimal data so you will not notice them running. They send all your information, every text, every call, every location ping, to a dashboard that the abuser can access from anywhere. And they are legal. Completely legal. You can buy them online for as little as $30 a month. No questions asked. No verification required. The companies that make them know exactly what they are being used for, and they do not care. In 2024, the Federal Trade Commission banned several stalkerware companies from operating in the United States. Support King, Spy, F1, Phone Spectre, companies that admitted their products were being used to stalk and harass people. The FTC said these apps were harvesting and sharing data on people's physical movements, phone use, and online activity without consent. But hundreds of other stalkerware apps are still available. They are still being advertised. They are still being purchased by abusive partners who want to control their victims. I looked into this after Sarah died. I wanted to understand how Robert had done it. How he had turned Sarah's devices into surveillance equipment without her knowing. It is shockingly easy. If someone has access to your phone for just 5 minutes, they can install stalkerware. They do not need your password if the phone is already unlocked. They do not need technical skills. The apps come with step-by-step instructions, screenshots,
video tutorials.
Here is how it works. The abuser downloads the stalkerware app on their own device first, creates an account, pays for a subscription. Then they get physical access to the victim's phone, maybe while the victim is sleeping, maybe while they are in the shower. Maybe they offer to fix something on the phone or install a helpful app. The abuser downloads the stalkerware onto the victim's phone. The app immediately hides itself, changes its name to something innocuous, moves itself to a hidden folder, disables notifications, and then it just runs, constantly, silently, sending every piece of information back to the abuser's dashboard. The victim has no idea. Their phone looks normal. It acts normal. But someone is watching. Someone is listening. Someone knows everything. Detective Brian Hill from Anoka County, Minnesota, demonstrated how this works for a news program in 2014. He showed how a popular stalkerware app called M-Spy could be installed on a phone in minutes. How it could record full phone conversations. How it could access photos and videos. How it could track location in real time. Very cheap, considering what it can do, Detective Hill said. A 1-month subscription cost $70. A 1-year subscription cost $200. For $200, an abuser can monitor their victim 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for an entire year. Detective Hill also showed how the app disguised itself. It would label itself as Android, SYS, process, a name that looked like part of the phone's operating system. If someone found it, they would think it was legitimate software. They would not delete it. And even if someone suspected their phone was compromised, even if they factory reset it, the abuser could just reinstall the stalkerware the next time they got access to the device. The Coalition Against Stalkerware, a group founded by cybersecurity companies and domestic violence advocates, has been trying to raise awareness about this issue for years. They have published guides on how to detect stalkerware, how to remove it, how to stay safe if you suspect you are being monitored. But their advice is heartbreaking, because they know that removing stalkerware can be dangerous. If an abuser realizes their victim has discovered the surveillance, they may escalate. They may become violent. They may kill. So, the Coalition's advice is this: if you think you have stalkerware on your phone, do not remove it immediately. Instead, use a different device, a device the abuser does not have access to, and contact a domestic violence advocate. Make a safety plan. Get somewhere safe. Then, only then, remove the stalkerware or get a new phone. But how many women know this? How many women even know stalkerware exists? How many women are being monitored right now and have no idea? Sarah did not know. I did not know. The police did not know. The hospital staff who saw her bruises and helped her fill out that questionnaire did not know. Nobody knew until it was too late. I started researching obsessively after Sarah's funeral. Started reading everything I could find about stalkerware and domestic violence and technology-enabled abuse. And the more I read, the more horrified I became. There are laws about electronic surveillance, about wiretapping, about recording conversations without consent, but they vary wildly from state to state. In some states, it is illegal to record a phone conversation unless everyone involved consents. In other states, only one person needs to consent, and that person can be the abuser recording their victim without permission. In some states, installing stalkerware on your partner's phone violates computer fraud and abuse laws. In others, it is a gray area. If you are married, If you share devices, if you pay for the phone plan, you might legally be allowed to monitor your spouse's phone. Florida passed a law called Jackie's Law in 2022 that makes it easier to prosecute people who use GPS or electronic tracking to stalk their victims. New York has similar legislation, but many states have no specific laws addressing stalkerware at all. And even in states with laws, enforcement is difficult. Most police departments do not have the training or resources to detect stalkerware on phones. They do not have the forensic tools. They do not know what to look for. Erica Olson, director of the National Network to End Domestic Violence's Safety Net Project, says this is a huge problem. It is really important to take this seriously, she told reporters in 2014. Because if someone is monitoring someone else's phone like this, then they have access to that person's information and location. And that is an immediate safety concern. But her warnings were largely ignored. Stalkerware was dismissed as paranoia, as overreaction, as women being dramatic, until the bodies started piling up. Until Sarah, until Melissa, until Jennifer, until Amanda, until dozens, maybe hundreds of other women whose deaths were blamed on domestic violence, but never linked to the technology that enabled it. I think about this all the time. I think about how Sarah did everything right. She documented the abuse. She made a safety plan. She hired a lawyer. She prepared to leave. But she did not know Robert was listening. She did not know her phone was betraying her. She did not know that every conversation she had about leaving him was being transmitted directly to him in real time. If she had known, maybe she would have done things differently. Maybe she would have gotten a burner phone. Maybe she would have communicated only through a trusted friend's device. Maybe she would not have invited Daniel over to help her pack. Maybe she would still be alive. I miss Sarah every single day. I miss her laugh, her terrible jokes, the way she always remembered everyone's birthday. I miss watching Emma grow up with her mom. Emma is 3 now, living with Sarah's parents, asking when mommy is coming home. But more than missing Sarah, I am terrified. Terrified that this is happening to someone else right now. Terrified that another woman is being monitored, tracked, stalked through her own devices. Terrified that another Robert or Louis or abuser is watching, waiting, planning. I am writing this because people need to know. They need to know that stalkerware exists. They need to know how to detect it. They need to know what to do if they suspect they are being monitored. Here are the warning signs. Your phone battery drains faster than usual. Your data usage is higher than normal. Your phone feels hot even when you are not using it. You notice apps you did not download. Your partner knows things they should not know. They mention conversations you had when they were not present. They know where you were when you did not tell them. If you notice these signs, do not panic. Do not confront your partner. Do not tell them you suspect stalkerware. Instead, quietly, carefully, use a different device to get help. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-7-997-233. Contact a local domestic violence shelter. Talk to an advocate who specializes in technology-enabled abuse. They will help you make a safety plan. They will help you document the stalking. They will help you get a new phone, a new device that your abuser cannot monitor. They will help you get somewhere safe. And if you are reading this and you know someone who is in an abusive relationship, please tell them about stalkerware. Show them this article. Help them check their devices. Help them understand that their partner might be watching everything they do. Because the technology exists. The apps are real. The abuse is happening. And women are dying. Sarah was supposed to start her new life on March 15th. She had signed a lease on a 1-bedroom apartment in Northwest Portland. She had bought new furniture. She had enrolled Emma in a new daycare near her work. She was 7 days away from freedom. Robert made sure she never got there. At Robert's sentencing, the judge said he had serious reservations about whether Robert was truly remorseful. "He is a very selfish person," Judge William Morrison said. "The bottom line here is, he will die in prison. He will never be a free man. He will take his last breath there. But Robert is not the only one who will die in prison. His actions killed 2 people and destroyed countless lives. Sarah's parents lost their daughter. Daniel's family lost their son. Emma lost her mother. And somewhere out there, right now, another abuser is installing stalkerware on another victim's phone. Another woman is being watched, tracked, monitored without her knowledge. Another murder is being planned. I am telling Sarah's story because she cannot tell it herself. I am telling it because people need to understand that domestic violence does not just happen in person anymore. It happens through apps, through devices, through technology we use every single day. The phone in your pocket could be listening. The tablet your child uses could be recording. The smart home devices you trust could be transmitting your every move to someone who wants to hurt you. Check your devices. Know the warning signs. Get help if you need it. And please, please, if you see something, say something. If your friend seems afraid of their partner, if they seem to be walking on eggshells, if their partner always seems to know where they are and what they are doing, ask them if they are okay. Offer to help. Give them resources. Because Sarah did not have to die. Melissa did not have to die. Jennifer and Amanda and all the others did not have to die. They died because technology gave their abusers power. They died because nobody was paying attention. They died because stalkerware is legal, accessible, and effective. And unless something changes, more women will die. Remember Sarah. Remember Melissa. Remember all the women we have lost to technology-enabled abuse. And check your phone. Right now. Because you never know who might be listening. I need to tell you something about what happened to my best friend Marcus. And I need to tell you why I will never, ever go live on social media again. This is not one of those stories where I am trying to scare you or get views. This is real. Marcus is gone, and the police still cannot explain what happened that night. His case file sits in some detective's desk in Portland, marked unsolved. I was there. I watched it happen. And the worst part is, I could have stopped it. Marcus Chen was 24 years old, a TikTok creator with just over 80,000 followers. He was not famous, not like those influencers with millions of subscribers, but he had built something real. People liked him. He did gaming streams, battle challenges, freestyle raps, the kind of content that feels authentic because it is. We grew up together in Portland, Oregon, went to the same high school, stayed friends through college. When he started blowing up on TikTok last year, I was happy for him. Finally, something good was happening. Then December 7th, 2024 happened. That was the night Marcus died during a live stream. And here's the thing that keeps me awake at night. The thing that makes my hands shake when I think about it. I was on that stream with him. I was there. I heard everything. We were doing a TikTok battle match, which is basically where 2 creators go live together and compete for gifts from viewers. It was stupid fun, nothing serious. Marcus was at his place in Northeast Portland, and I was at mine across town. We had been streaming for maybe 20 minutes, just talking trash to each other, laughing, making jokes. His viewers were sending gifts. My viewers were sending gifts, and everything felt normal. Then Marcus said something that did not make sense. He was mid-sentence, something about how he was going to crush me in the next round, when his voice just stopped. Like someone had hit a pause button. His camera was still on, I could see him sitting there at his desk, but he was not moving. Not blinking. Nothing. For maybe 3 seconds, everything froze. Then his voice came back. But it was different. I cannot describe it properly, but imagine if someone took Marcus's voice and ran it through a machine. It still sounded like him, the same tone, the same pitch, but there was something underneath it. Something cold. Something that made every hair on my body stand up. He said, in this voice that was his, but was not his, "They are coming for me now." I remember laughing nervously, thinking he was messing around. "Marcus, what are you doing, man?" I asked. His face on my screen was blank, completely expressionless. And then his mouth moved, but the words that came out were not his. "You should have protected me. You should have kept me safe. But you did not. You left me alone. And now they are here." The chat exploded. Viewers were flooding in, hundreds of comments per second. People asking what was happening, if this was a prank, if Marcus was okay. But I knew. Somewhere deep in my gut, I knew this was not a joke. "Marcus," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Marcus, talk to me. Are you all right?" His eyes moved. Slowly, deliberately, they shifted to look directly into his camera. Directly at me. And then he smiled. It was not Marcus's smile. It was something else wearing his face. "Run," the voice said. "Run now." And then the screaming started. I do not mean Marcus screamed. I mean the sound coming through my speakers was screaming. Dozens of voices screaming all at once. A chorus of agony that was so loud I ripped my headphones off. But even with them off, I could still hear it. Through my laptop speakers. Through my phone. Through everything. Marcus jumped up from his chair so fast it fell backward. I could see panic in his eyes now. Real terror. And he was looking at something off camera. Something I could not see. "No, no, no," he was saying. His real voice back now, frantic and desperate. "Not yet. Please. Not yet." The chat was chaos. People were screaming in the comments, telling him to run, telling him to call the police, asking what was happening. Some people thought it was an act. I knew better. Marcus looked back at the camera one more time, and in that moment I saw my best friend. Really saw him. And he looked at me like he was saying goodbye. Then he ran. He fled off camera so fast I barely saw him move. The live stream kept running, showing his empty room, his gaming setup, his posters on the wall. But the audio kept going, and what I heard next will haunt me for the rest of my life. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. Coming from somewhere in his apartment. A door slamming. Marcus's voice, distant now, shouting, "Get away from me. Get away." And then, the sound I will never forget as long as I live. Gunshots. 3 of them. Loud, sharp cracks that made me jump so hard I knocked over my own chair. Then, silence. The stream kept running for another 11 minutes before TikTok finally cut it off. 11 minutes of Marcus's empty room. His chair still spinning slowly from where he had jumped up. His gaming headset blinking with notifications from viewers who were begging someone to tell them this was not real. I called 911 immediately. Told them my friend was in danger. Gave them his address. Told them I had just heard gunshots through a live stream. The dispatcher kept asking me questions I could not answer. Was I sure it was gunshots? Was I sure it was not part of his content? I kept screaming at her that I was sure, that I knew Marcus, that something terrible had just happened. It took the Portland police 17 minutes to reach his apartment. They found Marcus dead in his bedroom. 3 gunshot wounds to the chest. No signs of forced entry. No signs of struggle. No murder weapon. No suspects. Nothing. The autopsy report, which his family eventually shared with me, said he died around 9:47 p.m. That was exactly when I heard the gunshots on the live stream. Time of death matched perfectly. But here's what makes no sense, what the police cannot explain. Marcus's apartment building has security cameras at every entrance. They checked all the footage from that entire evening. No one entered his building who did not live there. No one left his building between 9:30 and 10:30. No one. The cameras show Marcus coming home from work at 6:15. After that, until the police arrived, nobody went in or out of that building except residents who all had alibis. The police interviewed everyone in his building. The old couple downstairs who heard nothing. The college students next door who were at a party with 20 witnesses. The single mom across the hall who was on a video call with her sister the entire evening. Nobody heard gunshots. Nobody heard anything unusual. And yet, I heard 3 gunshots clearly through the live stream. The case went cold within a week. The detective assigned to it, a woman named Sarah Mitchell, told me off the record that she had never seen anything like it. "It is like he was killed by a ghost," she said. But I know what I heard. I know what I saw. And I know what happened right before Marcus ran. That voice. That artificial wrong voice coming out of his mouth. Those words it said. They are coming for me now. I started digging after the funeral. Started researching everything I could find about live-streamed deaths, about mysterious murders during broadcasts, about technology that could hijack someone's voice. And what I found made everything worse. In Mexico, 5 months before Marcus died, a beauty influencer named Valeria Marquez was shot and killed during a TikTok live stream. She was at her salon when masked men entered and killed her. But before they did, witnesses say she expressed fear on camera, said people were coming for her. The way she said it, people described it as strange, disconnected. In Jamaica, over the past year, at least 4 TikTok creators have been murdered during or immediately after live streams. Xavier Foga, known as Nia Gang, was killed on December 7, 2024, the exact same date as Marcus. He was doing a battle match, just like Marcus. His CO host said his voice sounded weird right before the shooting started. Said it sounded like him, but not like him. In Venezuela, in June of 2025, a creator named Gabriel Sarmiento was shot dead during a live stream. Before his murder, his final broadcast had glitches, moments where his voice cut out and came back sounding mechanical. There are dozens more. Creators all over the world, dying during streams. All of them showing the same pattern. Voice anomalies. Strange behavior right before. No clear suspects. Unsolved cases piling up on detectives' desks from Portland to Mexico City to Kingston. And then I found something that made me physically sick. AI voice cloning. There is technology now, widely available, that can replicate someone's voice using just 3 seconds of audio. 3 seconds. Every TikTok creator, every YouTuber, every person who has ever posted a video online has given these systems more than enough material to clone their voice perfectly. The FBI put out warnings about it in 2024. Scammers using AI to impersonate loved ones, calling people and begging for money in voices that sound exactly like their children or grandchildren. The technology is so good that parents cannot tell the difference. But what if someone was using that technology for something worse? What if someone or something was targeting content creators, hijacking their live streams, cloning their voices, sending messages that sound like threats but are really predictions? What if that voice that came out of Marcus's mouth was not a ghost or a glitch, but an AI telling him exactly what was about to happen? I went back and watched the recording of that final stream. Somebody had screen recorded it before TikTok deleted it, and it was circulating on Reddit. I watched it 50 times, maybe more. and I noticed something I had missed the first time. Right before Marcus's voice changed, there was a glitch. Just a fraction of a second where the video pixelated, where his audio cut out. It looked like a bad connection, like lag. But it was not. It was something interrupting the stream. Something inserting itself between Marcus and his viewers. And in that moment of interruption, it learned his voice. It copied it, and then it used it against him. The police found Marcus's phone in his apartment. It was open to a messaging app, and there were texts from an unknown number. Texts that had been sent during the live stream, while he was still alive, while he was still on camera. The text said, "I can see you. I know where you live. I am coming for you right now." But Marcus never checked his phone during the stream. He never saw those messages, and the number they came from does not exist. When the police tried to trace it, it led nowhere. A ghost number. I think about that a lot. About something watching him, sending him messages he would never see, preparing to kill him while he smiled and laughed and entertained his viewers. About how helpless he was, and did not even know it. I found one more thing that the police did not tell me about. I found it through a friend who works in the Portland Police Department. Someone who owed me a favor, and was willing to break protocol. Marcus had been receiving weird messages for weeks before he died. Messages from accounts that would delete themselves immediately after sending. Messages that knew things about him nobody should know. Where he worked. What route he took home. What time he went to bed. He told his mom about it a week before he died. Told her he was scared, that he felt like someone was watching him. She told him to report it to the police. He said he would, but he never did. I think he thought it would stop. I think he thought he could just ignore it. I think he was wrong. There is more to this. More I have not told you. More I am afraid to say. Because I started receiving messages 3 days after Marcus's funeral. Messages from numbers I do not recognize. Messages that say things like, "You were there. You watched. You did nothing." I deleted TikTok. Deleted Instagram. Deleted every social media app on my phone. But it did not matter. The messages kept coming. Through email. Through old messenger apps I forgot I had. Through platforms I did not even know existed. And yesterday I received a voice message. It was my voice. I know it was. The same cadence, the same slight lisp I have when I talk fast, the same everything. But I did not record it. I did not send it. Someone, or something, cloned my voice and sent me a message in my own voice. It said, "Your turn is coming. Everyone who watches will see." I called the police, filed a report. They took it seriously because of what happened to Marcus. But what can they do? How do you stop something that exists in code, in algorithms, in the infinite digital space between videos and streams and posts? I am writing this down because I need people to know. If something happens to me, if I disappear or turn up dead or become another unsolved case file, I need people to understand that this is not random. This is not gang violence or burglary or bad luck. This is something new. Something using our own voices against us. Something that watches us through our cameras, learns from our videos, copies our speech, and uses that knowledge to destroy us. Marcus is dead. Xavier Foga is dead. Valeria Marquez is dead. Gabriel Sarmiento is dead. Dozens more whose names I do not even know are dead. And every single one of them was targeted through their platforms, through their streams, through the very technology they used to connect with people. The police do not believe me. My therapist thinks I am having a breakdown. My family thinks I am paranoid. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And I know that whatever killed Marcus is still out there. I have not gone live since that night. I have not even opened TikTok. But I can still feel it watching me. Still feel that presence that interrupted Marcus's stream, that cloned his voice, that sent him running scared into a room where something was waiting for him. I do not know if it is human or machine or something worse. I do not know if it is one person or a group or an AI that has gone completely wrong. All I know is that it is real, it is happening, and nobody is stopping it. So, if you are reading this, if you are a creator, if you go live on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, please be careful. Watch your streams for glitches. Listen to your own voice for changes. Pay attention to messages from unknown numbers. And if your voice ever sounds wrong to you, if it ever sounds like someone else is speaking through your mouth, end the stream. Run. Get somewhere safe. Because Marcus did not. Marcus kept streaming. And now Marcus is dead. I miss my friend. I miss his laugh, and his terrible freestyle raps, and the way he would always text me random memes at 3 a.m. I miss knowing he was out there making people smile, building something good. But, more than that, I am terrified. Terrified that whatever took him is not done. Terrified that I am next. Terrified that every time I hear my own voice, I will wonder if it is really me, or if something else has learned how to be me better than I can. The detective called me last week, said they were closing Marcus's case. Insufficient evidence. No leads. No suspects. Just another unsolved murder in a city full of unsolved murders. But I know the truth. And now, so do you. If you see this story reposted somewhere, if you see someone talking about Marcus Chen from Portland, if you hear about more creators dying during live streams, remember what I told you. Remember that our technology has grown beyond our control, and something is using it to hunt us. I do not know how much time I have left. The messages are getting more frequent, more specific. Yesterday, one told me what I was wearing. Today, one told me what I had for breakfast. It knows where I am. It knows what I am doing. And I think it knows I am writing this. My advice to you, to anyone who will listen, is simple. Be careful what you put online. Be careful who you trust. Be careful when you go live. Because in 2026, we are all just one stream away from becoming another unsolved case. Marcus deserved better. Xavier deserved better. Valeria deserved better. They all deserve better than to become statistics in a pattern nobody wants to acknowledge. I am posting this on Reddit, on forums, anywhere that will let me. I am begging people to pay attention, to connect the dots, to see what I see. Because if we do not, if we just keep scrolling and streaming and ignoring the signs, more people will die. And maybe, probably, I will be next. I keep thinking about Marcus's last words, the real ones, in his own voice, right before he ran. Not yet. Please. Not yet. He knew something was coming. He had known for a while, and he could not stop it. Neither can I. So please, if you are reading this, do not make the same mistakes we did. Do not think you are safe just because you are careful. Do not think you are immune just because you have not been targeted yet. Watch your streams. Watch your voice. Watch your back. Because something out there is watching too, and it is learning. My sister Rebecca Martin, and I need to tell you about the man who smiled for the camera while plotting her murder. This is not fiction. This is not speculation. This is about how the person sleeping next to you, the person who promised to love you forever, can hire strangers to kill you while posting happy photos on Instagram. This is about how easy it has become to buy death online, and how many women are dying because nobody suspects the husband who was there when it happened. Rebecca was 32 years old, a dental hygienist in Portland, Oregon, with a 3-year-old daughter named Sophia. She had been married to Michael Martin for 5 years. To everyone who knew them, they seemed happy. They posted couple photos on social media. They went dancing on weekends. They smiled in every picture. On September 23rd, 2024, Michael murdered my sister. He did not pull the trigger himself. He hired 2 men to do it. And he made sure he had the perfect alibi, the kind of alibi that would have worked if one small thing had not gone wrong. I am Rebecca's older sister, Emma. I am the person she called when she found out Michael was cheating. I am the one she told about the secret Instagram account he kept, the messages to other women she discovered on his phone. I am the one who helped her find a divorce lawyer. And I am the one who knew, the moment the police called to tell me she was dead, exactly who had killed her. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how this actually happened, because understanding how is what keeps me awake at night. Understanding how easy it was, how carefully planned, how close Michael came to getting away with it. Rebecca and Michael had been having problems for about a year. She caught him messaging a woman named Ashley on Instagram in February of 2024. Flirty messages at first, then explicit, then plans to meet up. Rebecca confronted him. Michael cried, apologized, said it was a mistake, said he would end it. He did not end it. He just got better at hiding it. By July, Rebecca had made up her mind. She was done. She hired a lawyer, started documenting Michael's affair, prepared to file for divorce. But she did not tell Michael yet. She wanted everything in order first. She wanted to make sure Sophia would be protected, that Michael could not take her daughter away. Michael knew anyway. I do not know how. Maybe he went through her phone while she was sleeping. Maybe he installed spyware like so many abusive husbands do. Maybe Ashley told him Rebecca had confronted her. However, he found out, by August, Michael knew Rebecca was planning to leave him. And that was when he started looking for a way to kill her. I did not learn the full details until the trial. Did not understand the scope of what Michael had done until prosecutors laid it all out. So, let me tell you the story the way the jury heard it. The story that sent Michael to prison for life. On August 15th, 2024, Michael contacted a man named Trevor Ross through a mutual friend. Trevor was a drug dealer. Small time. The kind of guy who knew people. Michael told Trevor he needed help with a problem. A big problem. A wife problem. Trevor introduced Michael to 2 men, Jason Briggs and Marcus Cole. Both had criminal records. Both needed money. Both agreed to kill Rebecca Martin for $10,000, $5,000 up front, $5,000 after the job was done. Michael gave them $5,000 in cash on August 30th. The prosecutors found the ATM withdrawals, small amounts over several weeks so it would not raise suspicion. 200 here, 300 there, always from different banks, always in different neighborhoods. Then Michael waited. Waited for the right opportunity. Waited for a night when he could be out with Rebecca, when they would be driving home late. When he could stop somewhere isolated and let the men he hired do what they were paid to do. September 23rd was a Saturday. Michael suggested they go dancing at a club downtown, just the 2 of them. His mother would watch Sophia. They could have a date night. Try to reconnect. Rebecca agreed. She told me later that afternoon that she was skeptical but willing to try. Said maybe they could work things out. Said maybe she had been too hasty thinking about divorce. I told her to be careful. I told her I did not trust Michael. She laughed and said I was being paranoid. Said Michael was trying to fix things. Said one date night could not hurt. That was the last conversation I ever had with my sister. Rebecca and Michael went to the club around 9 p.m. They danced. They drank. Michael posted videos on Instagram stories, clips of Rebecca smiling, spinning, laughing. The geotags showed they were downtown. The timestamps proved they were together. Anyone looking at Michael's Instagram that night would have thought they were having a great time. that they were a happy couple enjoying each other's company. At 11:45 p.m., they left the club, got in Michael's car, started driving home. Their route would have taken them through northwest Portland, residential streets, late-night quiet. But Michael did not drive them home. At 12:13 a.m., he pulled over on a dark stretch of Highway 30, an industrial area near the Willamette River where nobody would be around at midnight. He told Rebecca he needed to use the bathroom, that he could not wait until they got home. Rebecca texted me while Michael was out of the car. The message said he stopped on some random road to pee. So, romantic lol. That was the last thing she ever sent me. 2 vehicles pulled up seconds after Michael walked away from the car. Jason Briggs and Marcus Cole got out. They were wearing masks, gloves, dark clothing. They approached Rebecca's side of the car. She tried to lock the doors. She was not fast enough. They dragged her out, beat her with metal pipes, took her purse, her phone, her jewelry, made it look like a robbery. And then, while Rebecca lay on the ground bleeding and pleading for help, while Michael stood 20 feet away pretending to be restrained by a third man, Jason Briggs shot my sister twice in the chest. Rebecca died at the scene. She was 32 years old. She had plans to take Sophia to the zoo the next day. She had a dentist appointment on Monday. She had a whole life ahead of her. Michael called 911 at 12:19 a.m. Told the dispatcher they had been attacked. Said men came out of nowhere, robbed them, shot his wife. Said he tried to fight them off, but there were too many. Said he watched his wife die and could not do anything to stop it. The Portland police arrived 8 minutes later. Michael was sitting on the curb near Rebecca's body, sobbing, covered in her blood. He had held her while she bled out, he told officers. He had tried to save her. He had failed. For the first 72 hours, everyone believed him. The news called it a random robbery gone wrong. People said Rebecca was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Friends and family held vigils. Michael gave interviews, tears streaming down his face, begging anyone with information to come forward. But Detective Sarah Chen did not believe him. Not from the start. Detective Chen had been investigating violent crimes for 15 years. She had seen hundreds of homicides. And something about Michael's story did not sit right with her. The location was wrong. Highway 30 at midnight was not the kind of place robbers staked out. There was no foot traffic, no easy escape routes. If someone wanted to rob people, they would pick a better spot. The timeline was wrong too. Michael said the attack happened within seconds of him walking away from the car. But in those few seconds, 2 vehicles had somehow appeared. Multiple men had surrounded Rebecca, and they had committed a violent murder. It was too coordinated, too fast, too efficient, and Michael's behavior was wrong. He had watched his wife get shot, according to his statement. He had held her while she died. But he had no defensive wounds, no injuries, no signs he had fought back or tried to protect her. Detective Chen started digging, started looking into Michael's background, his finances, his phone records. And that was when she found the affair with Ashley. Found the messages where Michael complained about Rebecca. Found searches on his laptop for how to hire a hitman and can police trace cash and how to make murder look like robbery. She found the ATM withdrawals. $5,000 in cash over 6 weeks. Always small amounts, always different locations. And then she found Trevor Ross. Found him because Jason Briggs, panicking after the murder, called Trevor and said something had gone wrong. Said the police were investigating. Said he wanted the rest of his money. Detective Chen arrested Trevor on an unrelated drug charge. Offered him a deal if he cooperated. Trevor gave up everything. Told her about Michael's initial contact in August. Told her about Jason and Marcus. Told her about the $5,000 down payment. Told her about the plan to make it look like a robbery. Police arrested Jason Briggs, and Marcus Cole on October 5, 2024. Both confessed within hours. Both said Michael Martin had hired them. Both said they were supposed to make it look random. Michael was arrested on October 7th, 12 days after Rebecca's murder. He was charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and solicitation of murder. The prosecutors said he faced life in prison without possibility of parole. Michael pleaded not guilty. Said Trevor, Jason, and Marcus were lying. Said they murdered Rebecca and were trying to frame him to get lighter sentences. Said he loved his wife, would never hurt her, could not believe anyone would suggest he was involved. But the evidence was overwhelming. Michael's laptop, his ATM withdrawals, his meetings with Trevor documented on security cameras from the coffee shop where they met, text messages between Michael and Jason coordinating the attack, Jason's phone location data showing he was near Highway 30 at the time of the murder, Marcus's confession, which included details only someone present could know, details Michael had told them about Rebecca's schedule, her jewelry, what she would be wearing that night. And then there was the Instagram evidence. All those happy photos Michael posted that night. The videos of Rebecca dancing. The timestamps proving they were at the club. Prosecutors showed the jury how Michael had crafted the perfect alibi, creating digital proof he was a loving husband out for a nice evening, while simultaneously orchestrating his wife's execution. The trial lasted 4 weeks. I sat through every day of it. Watched Michael cry on the stand. Watched him insist he was innocent. Watched his lawyers argue that the prosecution's case was circumstantial. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Found him guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge called Michael's crime one of the most callous and premeditated murders he had ever seen. He sentenced Michael to life without parole. Jason Briggs got 35 years. Marcus Cole got 40 years. Trevor Ross, who cooperated with investigators, got 10 years. Ashley, Michael's girlfriend, was never charged. She claimed she did not know about the murder plot. Police could not prove otherwise. She disappeared after the trial, deleted all her social media, moved out of state. Michael is in Oregon State Penitentiary now. He will die there. And I wish that brought me comfort. I wish that knowing he would never be free again made Rebecca's death feel less senseless. But it does not. Because Michael is not unique. Michael is not some rare monster. Michael is one of dozens, maybe hundreds of men who have tried to do exactly what he did. Let me tell you about some of the others. In February of 2025, in Ludhiana, India, a woman named Manvi Mittal was murdered by her husband, Anuj. He hired 5 contract killers for 250,000 rupees, about $3,000. He staged the murder to look like a robbery, stopping his car on an isolated road, claiming he needed to relieve himself, then watching as the hired men beat his wife to death with metal pipes. The murder was nearly identical to Rebecca's. He had posted happy photos with Manvi on social media just hours before. Police only solved the case when they discovered Anok's extramarital affair with a woman named Pratiksha. This was Anok's 3rd attempt to have his wife killed. The first 2 times, his hired killers got scared and backed out. In January of 2023, a man named Mohammed Chowdhury in Boston tried to hire hitmen to murder his estranged wife and her boyfriend. He was caught before the murder could happen, but not before he had paid thousands of dollars and given the hitman detailed information about his wife's routine, her address, the best times to attack her. In 2017, a woman named Claudia Ochoa Felix in Brooklyn hired a man named Ernest Catter to kill her husband, Thomas Brooks. This was her 3rd attempt. The first 2 assassination attempts had failed. Claudia eventually succeeded, and days after Thomas's death, she tried to cash out life insurance policies in his name. Both were sentenced to life in prison. In August of 24th, A Utah woman pleaded guilty to hiring a hitman from the dark web to kill her ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend. She was sentenced to 78 months in federal prison. In July of 2024, Sergio Pino, a wealthy home builder in Florida, hired not one but two separate teams of hitmen to murder his estranged wife, Tatiana. The first team failed. The second team failed. When FBI agents arrived to arrest him, Sergio killed himself rather than face justice. But here's what terrifies me most. Here's what keeps me up at night researching, reading, trying to understand how this keeps happening. Most of these murder-for-hire plots never succeed. Not because the people who order them change their minds. Not because they realize murder is wrong. But because many of the hitmen-for-hire services are fake. The dark web is full of websites claiming to offer contract killers. Names like Besa Mafia, Camorra Hitman, Number One Hitman, Marketplace. They advertise their services openly. They promise discretion. They accept Bitcoin payments. They provide detailed instructions on how to order a hit. Almost all of them are scams. A British journalist named Carl Miller investigated one of these sites and found 175 kill orders placed by real people trying to have real targets murdered. The site had collected over £400,000 from customers. But not a single hit was ever carried out, because the site was run by scammers in Romania who just wanted to steal Bitcoin. Miller and his team managed to save multiple lives by warning potential victims and notifying police. Their investigation led to 32 convictions and over 150 years of prison time for people who had tried to hire hitmen online. One of those convictions was Stephen Allwine
from Minnesota.
In 2016, Stephen tried to use a dark website called Besa Mafia to have his wife Amy killed. He used the username DogDayGod and paid $6,000 in Bitcoin. He asked for the murder to look like a car accident. When the site failed to deliver, Stephen ordered scopolamine, a drug that erases memory and renders people incapable of exercising free will. He poisoned Amy with it, then shot her and staged the scene to look like suicide. The FBI had been monitoring Besa Mafia and warned Amy she was in danger. She installed security cameras, bought a gun, tried to protect herself. It was not enough. Stephen murdered her anyway. He is now serving life in prison without possibility of parole. There is a website called rentahitman.com. It was created by a man named Bob Innes as a joke, a parody of murder-for-hire sites. The website is filled with obvious clues that it is fake. Fake testimonials. Links to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. A claim that it is regulated by the Hitman Information Privacy Protection Act, a play on HIPAA. Despite these obvious red flags, people try to hire hitmen through the site constantly. Innes passes serious inquiries to law enforcement. He estimates he has saved around 150 lives. One of his clients was Wendy Wine from Michigan. In 2021, Wendy tried to hire someone through Rent a Hitman to kill her ex-husband. She sent detailed messages describing the target, his address, his schedule. She offered $12,000. Innes contacted the FBI. Wendy was arrested and sentenced to prison. Another was Devin Faber from Virginia. In 2018, Devin tried to hire a hitman to kill his ex-girlfriend and her parents so he could kidnap her 3-year-old daughter. He told the fake hitman, "Make sure you kill them and do not kill the baby." Innes alerted police. Devin was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Do you understand what this means? Do you understand how many people are trying to commit murder for hire right now? Hundreds, maybe thousands. Ordinary people with ordinary lives who want someone dead badly enough to pay for it. And while most dark web hitman sites are scams occasionally, they are not. Occasionally, someone connects with a real killer. Occasionally, someone like Michael finds Trevor Ross, who introduces them to Jason Briggs and Marcus Cole. And then someone like my sister ends up dead on the side of Highway 30 while her husband posts happy Instagram videos. The FBI says murder for hire is actually quite rare. Official statistics show only a few dozen cases prosecuted each year. But those are the cases where law enforcement caught the perpetrator. How many succeed? How many murders look like robberies or accidents or suicides, and nobody ever discovers the spouse hired someone to do it? How many women die at the hands of hitmen while their husbands cry at funerals and collect life insurance? Detective Sarah Chen, the detective who solved Rebecca's case, told me she thinks murder for hire is much more common than anyone wants to admit. The problem is proof, she said. If the husband is smart, if he uses cash, if he does not leave a digital trail, if the hitmen do not confess, we might never know it was not random. She told me about other cases she has investigated. Other women killed in what looked like robberies. Other husbands with affairs and financial motives. Other convenient alibis. She could not prove murder for hire, but she suspected it. The perfect crime, she said, is the one where we rule it an accident and never look deeper. I think about that a lot. About how many perfect crimes there might be. About how many Michaels got away with it because their Jason Briggses did not confess. Their Trevor Rosses did not cooperate. Their digital trails were cleaner. I think about Rebecca's last text message. He stopped on some random road to pee. So romantic, lol. She was making a joke. She had no idea what was about to happen. No idea Michael had spent weeks planning her death. No idea two men with metal pipes and a gun were seconds away. If Rebecca had known Michael was cheating, if she had filed for divorce immediately instead of waiting, would she still be alive? Or would Michael have just moved up his timeline? If Rebecca had told Michael she was leaving, instead of keeping it secret while she prepared, would he have backed down? Or would he have hired the hitman sooner? There is no good answer. Because Rebecca did not deserve to die regardless of what she did or did not do. The responsibility for her death lies entirely with Michael, with his selfishness, with his willingness to pay strangers to kill the mother of his child so he could be with Ashley guilt-free. Sophia is 4 now. She lives with me. She asks about her mommy sometimes, why mommy is not coming home. I do not know how to explain to a 4-year-old that her daddy killed her mommy. I do not know how to help her understand why she visits her father in prison once a month, why other kids have normal families, and she does not. I am telling Rebecca's story because I want people to understand how easy it has become to buy death, how accessible hitmen for hire are, whether real or scam. How many ordinary people are willing to kill or hire someone to kill when faced with divorce, custody battles, financial loss, or just inconvenience? I am telling this story because if you are in a relationship where your partner has given you reasons to fear them, if you are planning to leave and they have found out, if they have affairs and financial motives and opportunity, please be careful. Do not get in the car with them on isolated roads at midnight. Do not agree to date nights in places where nobody will see you. Do not trust that love will protect you, because Michael loved Rebecca once, or at least said he did, and that did not stop him from planning her execution. Tell people if you are afraid. Tell friends, tell family, tell police. Document everything. Save messages. Record conversations, if legal in your state. Keep evidence of affairs and threats and controlling behavior. Make sure someone knows where you are at all times. Because Rebecca thought she was safe. She thought Michael was trying to fix their marriage. She thought one date night could not hurt. She was wrong. Michael had already paid Jason and Marcus their down payment. Michael had already chosen the location. Michael had already decided that killing Rebecca was easier than divorcing her. The Instagram videos he posted that night, the ones showing Rebecca smiling and dancing, those were not Michael trying to reconnect. Those were Michael building his alibi. Those were Michael creating evidence that he was a good husband, that he loved his wife, that he could not possibly have anything to do with her death. And if Jason and Marcus had not confessed, If Trevor had not cooperated, if Detective Chen had not been suspicious enough to keep digging, Michael's plan would have worked. He would have gotten away with it. He would be free right now. Raising Sophia. Dating Ashley openly. Living the life he murdered Rebecca to obtain. That is what haunts me. Not what happened, because what happened is done. But what almost happened. How close Michael came to succeeding. How close he came to the perfect crime. At Michael's sentencing, the judge asked if he had anything to say. Michael stood up, looked at me, looked at Rebecca's parents, looked at Sophia, who was too young to be in the courtroom, but whose picture was shown during victim impact statements. "I did not kill my wife," Michael said. "I loved Rebecca. I would never hurt her. And I hope one day the real killers are found." Even after being convicted, even after Jason and Marcus testified against him, even after prosecutors showed recordings of him meeting Trevor to plan the murder, Michael insisted he was innocent. The judge was not impressed. "Mr. Martin," he said, "you orchestrated the cold-blooded murder of your wife while making her think you wanted to save your marriage. You posted happy photos on social media while your hired killers waited to execute your plan. You held her as she died, knowing you were responsible. You attended her funeral and cried crocodile tears while secretly pleased your plan had worked. I have seen a lot of evil in my courtroom, but your particular brand of evil is especially disturbing. You not only took Rebecca's life, you betrayed her trust in the most intimate way possible." Michael showed no emotion during the sentencing. No remorse. No guilt. Just anger that he had been caught. That's who Michael Martin is. That is who he has always been. And Rebecca never saw it coming. None of us did. So please, if you are reading this, learn from Rebecca's death. Learn that the person you trust most can become the person who hurts you most. Learn that love does not protect you from betrayal. Learn that smartphones and social media make it easier than ever to create false narratives, perfect alibis, and digital evidence of affection that means nothing. And learn that murder for hire is not some distant crime that only happens to other people. It is happening right now, all over the world, as ordinary people try to solve their problems by hiring someone to kill. Rebecca was 32 years old. She was beautiful, funny, intelligent, and kind. She loved her daughter more than anything. She trusted her husband. She should be alive. She should be watching Sophia grow up. She should have had the chance to divorce Michael, move on, find happiness with someone who actually loved her. Instead, she is dead, killed on a dark road by strangers her husband paid. Murdered while Michael posted happy videos and built his alibi. Remember, Rebecca. Remember that smiles on Instagram mean nothing. Remember that date nights can be traps. Remember that the person sleeping next to you might be planning your death. And if you see warning signs, do not ignore them. Do not rationalize. Do not give them one more chance. Because Rebecca gave Michael one more chance. One date night. One attempt to reconnect. And it cost her everything. I need to tell you about my best friend Emma Collins, and I need to tell you why I will never get into a taxi or ride-share car without checking the driver 3 times. This is not paranoia. This is survival. Because Emma did everything right, and she still ended up dead on the side of a road. Her body buried in a forest. Her killer, someone she trusted completely. Someone whose job it was to get her home safely. Emma was 24 years old, a marketing coordinator in Portland, Oregon, with a bright future ahead of her. She was smart, careful, responsible. She checked driver ratings. She verified license plates. She shared her location with me whenever she took an Uber home from downtown. On November 19, 2024, Emma left a nightclub in downtown Portland around 2:30 a.m. She had been out with coworkers celebrating a promotion. She was not drunk, just tired, ready to go home. The walk to her apartment was only 8 blocks, a route she knew well. But it was late, it was cold, and Emma made the smart choice. She called a cab. CCTV captured a yellow taxi pulling up beside her at the corner of 3rd and Burnside. The footage shows Emma checking her phone, presumably verifying it was her ride. The taxi paused for 1 minute. You can see Emma hesitating, looking at the driver, then getting in. That was the last time anyone saw Emma alive. Her phone pinged in Mount Hood National Forest, 27 miles away at 3:41 a.m. Then the signal went dead. Police found her body 3 weeks later, buried in a shallow grave near a hiking trail. The medical examiner said she died from head injuries. She had defensive wounds on her hands. She fought. She fought hard. It was not enough. The driver was a man named Richard Mitchell, a local cab driver who had been working in Portland for 12 years. He had no criminal record. He had good reviews. He had a wife and 2 children. He was 49 years old, friendly, trusted by his company and his passengers. He was also a serial killer. I am Emma's best friend, Sophie. I am the person she texted at 2:28 a.m. that night, telling me she was getting a cab home. I am the one who reported her missing when she did not show up for brunch the next morning. I am the one who spent 3 weeks searching for her, posting her photo, begging anyone with information to come forward. And I am the one who has to live with the knowledge that Emma's killer picked her up hundreds of times before, that she trusted him, that he knew where she lived, that he had been waiting for the right opportunity. But let me tell you the full story, because understanding how it happened is what haunts me. Understanding that Richard Mitchell was not random, was not impulsive, was not a one-time mistake. He was methodical. He was patient. And he had been killing women for years. The police did not solve Emma's murder quickly. They had almost no leads. The taxi company said Richard clocked out at 2:45 a.m. that night, shortly after picking up Emma. He told his dispatcher he was going home, that his shift was over. Nobody saw anything suspicious. But Detective James Rodriguez did not believe it. Detective Rodriguez had been investigating Richard Mitchell for months before Emma disappeared, investigating him for the unsolved murder of another young woman named Sarah Thompson. Sarah disappeared in March of 2024, 8 months before Emma. She was 27 years old, a nurse at Oregon Health and Science University. She left a bar in Northwest Portland around midnight, planning to walk the 6 blocks to her apartment. Security cameras captured her near a taxi stand talking to a driver. Then nothing. No phone activity. No credit card use. No sightings. Sarah's body was found 5 months later, by hikers in the same forest where Emma would eventually be discovered. Same shallow grave. Same head injuries. Same defensive wounds. Detective Rodriguez had been building a case against Richard Mitchell for months. He had traffic camera footage placing Richard's cab near the bar where Sarah was last seen. He had cell tower data showing Richard's phone in Mount Hood National Forest, the night Sarah disappeared. But he did not have enough for an arrest. He did not have witnesses. He did not have physical evidence. He needed more. Then Emma went missing. And Detective Rodriguez knew immediately. Same pattern. Same location. Same method. The police arrested Richard Mitchell on December 10th, 2024, 21 days after Emma's disappearance. They searched his house, his cab, his storage unit. What they found made national news. Richard had kept trophies, dozens of them, jewelry from victims, driver's licenses, photographs, items of clothing. The police identified belongings from at least 8 different women, all of whom had been reported missing or found dead over the past 10 years. 8 women, maybe more. All of them picked up by a trusted cab driver. All of them taken to isolated locations. All of them murdered and buried in forests around Oregon and Washington. During interrogation, Richard confessed to 2 murders, Emma and Sarah. He refused to discuss the others. Said he did not remember them. Said it had been so long. But he led police to Sarah's grave, told them exactly where to look. And then he said something that made Detective Rodriguez's blood run cold. "Do you want another one?" Richard Mitchell offered to show them where he had buried a 3rd woman, someone the police did not even know was missing. A woman named Jessica Morgan, who had disappeared from Seattle in January of 2022. Jessica worked as a sex worker, and when she vanished, police assumed she had moved or gone into hiding. Nobody filed a missing persons report. Nobody looked for her. But Richard knew where she was. He had killed her. He had buried her in Mount Rainier National Forest. And he had been driving his cab in Seattle the night she disappeared. The detectives accepted his offer. Richard led them to Jessica's grave. And during the drive, he kept talking, kept offering more information, kept asking if they wanted to know about other women. But by this point, the police had made a critical mistake. Detective Rodriguez, desperate to find Emma's body, had continued interrogating Richard without properly cautioning him, without giving him access to a lawyer, without following proper procedure. He knew the confessions might not hold up in court. He knew he was risking the entire case. But he also knew that without Richard's cooperation, they might never find the victims. He made a choice. He chose the families over the law, and it almost destroyed everything. When Richard finally spoke to a lawyer, the lawyer immediately moved to have all of his confessions thrown out, argued that Detective Rodriguez had violated Richard's rights, argued that anything Richard said was inadmissible as evidence, and the judge agreed. The confession about Sarah? Inadmissible. The confession about Jessica? Inadmissible. The information about where the bodies were buried? Inadmissible. The prosecution was forced to withdraw the charges related to Sarah and Jessica. They could only proceed with Emma's murder because they had physical evidence, DNA and traffic camera footage that placed Richard's cab at the scene independent of his confession. Richard Mitchell was found guilty of Emma's murder in April of 2025. He was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. But he was never charged with Sarah's murder, or Jessica's murder, or the murders of 5 other women whose belongings were found in his storage unit. Officially, Richard Mitchell is a convicted murderer who killed 1 woman. Unofficially, investigators believe he killed at least 8, possibly more. And the worst part, he was hiding in plain sight the entire time. Richard Mitchell was not a criminal. He was a cab driver. He passed every background check. He had no arrests, no red flags, nothing that would have prevented him from getting his taxi license. He was married, had children, attended church, coached his son's little league team. His neighbors described him as quiet, friendly, helpful. His coworkers said he was reliable, professional, always on time. But at night, when he was driving his cab, he was hunting. The police investigation revealed that Richard had a system. He would identify potential victims, women traveling alone late at night. He would pick them up through legitimate cab requests, so there would be a record of the ride. Then, at some point during the trip, he would deviate from the route. Tell them there was construction, or traffic, or a faster way. Drive them to isolated areas where nobody would see. Attack them before they could call for help. He chose his victims carefully. Women who were alone, who did not have others waiting for them, who might not be reported missing immediately. Sarah was a nurse working night shifts. Jessica was a sex worker. Emma was out celebrating with coworkers but left alone. And because Richard was a cab driver, because his job required him to drive all over the city at all hours, his movements never seemed suspicious. Traffic cameras captured his cab in dozens of locations every night. Cell tower data showed his phone pinging across multiple neighborhoods. There was no pattern to track, no anomaly to investigate, because everything he did looked like normal cab driver activity. The only reason he was caught was because Detective Rodriguez noticed that both Sarah and Emma had been last seen near taxi stands, that both their phones had pinged in the same forest, that both had been buried in similar graves. And even then, it took months of investigation, surveillance, and a stroke of luck when Richard picked up Emma. I think about this constantly, about how many times Emma had taken Richard's cab before, about how he knew her routine, knew where she lived, knew she often went out in downtown Portland on Friday nights. The police found her address in his notebook, written down months before she disappeared. He had been planning it, waiting for the right moment. Emma trusted him because he was a cab driver, because cab drivers are supposed to be safe, because we are taught to take cabs instead of walking alone at night, because calling a taxi is the smart choice, the responsible choice, the choice that keeps you safe. Except it did not keep Emma safe. It delivered her directly to her killer. And here's what terrifies me most. Richard Mitchell is not unique. He is not the only predator who has used the trust inherent in transportation work to target victims. Let me tell you about some of the others. In Swindon, England, between 2003 and 2011, a taxi driver named Christopher Hallowell murdered at least 2 women, possibly dozens more. Becky Godden, 20 years old, disappeared in January 2003 after getting into a taxi outside a nightclub. Sian O'Callaghan, 22 years old, disappeared in March 2011 after leaving a nightclub and getting into Hallowell's taxi. CCTV captured the moment Sian got into his car at 2:52 a.m. Her phone pinged in Savernake Forest 12 miles away minutes later. Police found her body days later, buried in a shallow grave. When Christopher Hallowell was arrested, he confessed to both murders and led police to Becky's body, which had been buried for 8 years. But, like with Richard Mitchell, the detective interrogating him violated procedure. Detective Superintendent Stephen Fulcher did not caution Hallowell, did not give him access to a lawyer, continued questioning him in order to find the bodies. The confessions were thrown out. The charges related to Becky's murder were dropped. It took police 5 more years to gather enough evidence to retry Hallowell for Becky's murder. He was finally convicted in September 2016 and sentenced to a whole life term. He will die in prison. But here is what keeps people awake at night. After Hallowell's arrest, police searched his property and found a hidden cache of 60 items of women's clothing and accessories. 60. Personal belongings from dozens of different women. Investigators believe Christopher Hallowell may have killed 20 or more women over 3 decades, using his job as a taxi driver to identify, abduct, and murder victims across England. His extensive travel for work, his passion for fishing and boating, gave him access to remote locations where bodies could be hidden. Most of those cases remain unsolved. Most of those families will never have answers. In Kalamazoo, Michigan, in February 2016, an Uber driver named Jason Dalton went on a shooting rampage that killed 6 people and injured 2. He picked up passengers, drove them to their destinations, dropped them off safely, then drove to random locations and opened fire on strangers. He shot 4 women outside a restaurant. He shot a father and his 17-year-old son at a car dealership. He shot a 14-year-old girl who survived. Between shootings, he continued accepting Uber fares, driving people around Kalamazoo as if nothing was wrong. Passengers later reported that Dalton seemed normal, if a bit quiet. One even joked and asked if he was the shooter. He denied it, dropped them off at their hotel, then picked up his next fare. He was arrested hours later. He showed no remorse. He claimed an evil figure on his Uber app had taken control of his mind. He was sentenced to life without parole. In Columbia, South Carolina in March 2019, a 21-year-old college student named Samantha Josephson ordered an Uber home from a nightclub. She got into what she thought was her ride, a black Chevy Impala. The driver, Nathaniel Rowland, was not an Uber driver. He was a predator who had been watching for drunk college students leaving bars alone. He used child-proof locks to trap Samantha in his car. He drove her 65 miles away. He stabbed her over 100 times. He dumped her body in a field. Samantha had gotten into the wrong car. She had not checked the license plate carefully enough in her tired, intoxicated state. And it cost her everything. Nathaniel Rowland was sentenced to life without parole. Samantha's death led to Sammy's Law, federal legislation requiring rideshare vehicles to have front license plates and illuminated windshield signs to help passengers identify their actual rides. But it was too late for Samantha. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in February 2022, a mother of 4 named Christina Spikuza was working as an Uber driver to earn extra money. She picked up a passenger named Calvin Crew. He kidnapped her, robbed her, shot her, and left her body in a parking lot. Calvin was arrested and sentenced to life without parole. Christina's children will grow up without their mother. In North Richland Hills, Texas, in 2025, a 60-year-old Uber driver named Tahiru Diallo picked up a passenger named Kane Roden. Surveillance video from neighbors showed Roden getting out of the passenger side, walking around the car to the driver's side, and shooting Tahiru multiple times. Tahiru's family said he was working to support his wife and children in Guinea. Kane Roden had 2 outstanding charges for violence and was out on bond. He is now charged with murder. In New Orleans, between 2022 and 2024, at least 3 rideshare drivers were killed after picking up fares, and 8 more were carjacking victims. The victims include Andrew Stiller, shot dead on Interstate 10, Marvin Bardales Valle, 32 years old, gunned down after an argument with a passenger. An unnamed driver shot and killed in Austin. These are not isolated incidents. These are not rare occurrences. A memorial website tracking taxi and rideshare driver deaths lists over 2,600 occupational fatalities. The great majority were homicides. Taxi driving is one of the most dangerous jobs in America, with a homicide rate 20 times higher than the national average for all workers. But passengers are not safe either, because the relationship between driver and passenger, the inherent vulnerability of getting into a stranger's car, creates opportunities for predators on both sides. And the worst part, the companies that facilitate these rides, Uber and Lyft and traditional taxi services, do background checks that miss so much. Christopher Hallowell had no criminal record when he was hired. Richard Mitchell had no criminal record. Jason Dalton had no criminal record. Nathaniel Rowland had no criminal record. Background checks only catch people who've been caught before. They do not catch first-time offenders. They do not catch people who have been killing for years without being caught. They do not catch people like Richard Mitchell, who maintain a perfect facade while hunting women at night. After Emma's murder, I started researching obsessively. Started reading everything I could find about taxi and rideshare violence. And what I learned made me realize how vulnerable we all are. When you get into a taxi or rideshare car, you are putting your life in a stranger's hands. You are trusting that the background check was thorough. You are trusting that the company verified the driver properly. You are trusting that the person behind the wheel is who they say they are. You are trusting that their intentions are good. But trust is not enough. Emma trusted Richard. Samantha trusted that the car was her Uber. Sion trusted that Christopher Hallowell would take her home. Sarah trusted the taxi driver she spoke to outside the bar. They were all wrong. Detective Rodriguez, who solved Emma's case, told me something during the trial that I think about every day. He said, "Most cab drivers and rideshare drivers are good people doing an honest job. But the nature of the work attracts a certain type of predator. Someone who wants access to vulnerable people. Someone who wants a legitimate reason to drive around at night. Someone who wants to be trusted. He said that in his 15 years investigating homicides, he had seen multiple cases where taxi drivers or people posing as taxi drivers had murdered passengers. He said the pattern is always the same. Victim traveling alone. Late at night. Isolated location. Body found weeks or months later, if at all. He said most of those cases remain unsolved because there is no evidence trail. No witnesses. No forensics. Just a missing person and a driver who has already picked up dozens of other passengers since, contaminating any potential evidence in the vehicle. He said Emma was lucky in a horrific way because they caught Richard. Because they had DNA evidence and traffic camera footage, and a detective who refused to give up. He said most families never get that closure. Sarah Thompson's mother, Jessica Morgan's mother, the families of the 5 other women whose belongings were found in Richard's storage unit, they will never see justice. Because the confessions were thrown out. Because proper procedure was not followed. Because the law protects the rights of killers more than it protects the families of victims. Detective Rodriguez was investigated for misconduct. He was reprimanded. He was given a final written warning. He resigned from the Portland Police Bureau 6 months after Emma's trial. He told me he would make the same choice again. That finding the bodies, giving families closure, was worth more than following rules. But it also meant Richard Mitchell will never be held accountable for Sarah, for Jessica, for the others. He sits in prison serving life for Emma's murder, and that is better than nothing. But it is not justice for all his victims. I miss Emma every single day. I miss her laugh, her terrible dance moves, the way she always remembered everyone's birthday. I miss texting her at 2 a.m. about nothing. I miss having a best friend who felt like a sister. But more than missing Emma, I am terrified. Terrified that there are other Richard Mitchells out there. Other Christopher Hallowells. Other predators wearing the uniform of safety, driving cars that say they will take you home, using our trust against us. I am writing this because people need to know. They need to know that getting into a cab or a rideshare car is not automatically safe. That drivers need to be verified. That license plates need to be checked. That every single precaution matters. Here are the rules I follow now. Rules I wish Emma had followed that night. Rules that might have saved her life. Always check the license plate against the app. Do not get into a car just because it looks like the right make and model. Verify the exact license plate number. Always check the driver's photo. Make sure the person behind the wheel matches the picture in the app. If they do not get in. Always ask the driver to confirm your name. Do not tell them your name first. Make them prove they are your driver. Always sit in the back seat. Never in the front passenger seat where you are within easy reach. Always share your location with someone. Make sure a friend or family member can track your ride in real time. Always have your phone ready. If anything feels wrong, call 911 immediately. Do not wait. Do not give them the benefit of the doubt. Always trust your instincts. If something feels off, if the driver makes you uncomfortable, if they deviate from the route, get out. Say you forgot something. Say you are going to be sick. Make an excuse and get out. These rules might seem paranoid. They might seem excessive. But Emma would be alive if she had followed them. Samantha would be alive. Sion would be alive. All of them would be alive if they had been more careful, more suspicious, more paranoid. Because paranoia is survival when the person driving the car might be hunting you. Richard Mitchell's wife filed for divorce after his arrest. She told reporters she had no idea. Said he was a good husband, a good father, a normal man. Said she was horrified to learn what he had done. She and her children moved out of state. Changed their names. Started over. Richard's co-workers at the taxi company said they were shocked. Said Richard was friendly, professional, reliable. Said they never would have suspected him. The company released a statement expressing sympathy for the victims and promising to improve their screening process. But they cannot bring Emma back. They cannot undo what Richard did. They cannot give Sarah's family justice or Jessica's family closure. All they can do is say they are sorry, and that is not enough. At Richard Mitchell's sentencing, the judge asked if he wanted to make a statement. Richard stood up, looked at me, looked at Emma's parents, looked at the courtroom filled with people whose lives he had destroyed. "I am sorry," he said. "I am sorry for what I did. I wish I could take it back." But the judge was not impressed. "Mr. Mitchell," he said, "you used your position of trust to target vulnerable women. You used your job, a job meant to keep people safe, as a hunting ground. You are a predator of the worst kind. Someone who smiles and jokes and drives people home while planning how to kill them. You will never leave prison. You will die there, and the world will be safer for it." Richard showed no emotion during the sentencing. No tears. No remorse. Just the same blank expression he wore throughout the entire trial. That is who Richard Mitchell is. That is who Christopher Hallowell is. That is who these men are. Monsters wearing human faces. Predators hiding behind uniforms and taxi signs and friendly smiles. And they are still out there. Right now, somewhere, another Richard Mitchell is driving a cab. Another Christopher Hallowell is picking up a passenger. Another predator is using our trust against us. So please, if you are reading this, learn from Emma's death. Learn that the person driving the car is a stranger, no matter how friendly they seem. Learn that your safety is your responsibility. Learn that trust is not enough. Check the license plate. Check the photo. Share your location. Sit in the back. Keep your phone ready. Trust your instincts. Because Emma trusted Richard Mitchell. And Emma is dead. She was 24 years old. She had plans to go back to school for her MBA. She wanted to travel to Japan. She wanted to adopt a dog. She had a whole life ahead of her. Richard Mitchell took all of that away. In one night. For reasons nobody will ever fully understand. Remember Emma. Remember Cyan. Remember Sarah and Jessica and Samantha and all the others. Remember that the trusted stranger might be the most dangerous person you ever meet. And check your license plate. Every single time. Because you never know who is driving. I need to tell you about my brother Daniel Miller. And I need to tell you why I will never believe the official story about what happened to him. This is not a plea for sympathy. This is not grief talking. This is me, his older sister Emma, telling you that something is very wrong in this country. Something that has been happening for over 25 years. And nobody wants to admit it. Daniel was 23 years old. A speech pathology student at Portland State University with a 4.0 grade point average and a scholarship to graduate school already lined up. He was brilliant, careful, responsible. He did not drink heavily. He did not take risks. He was the kind of person who called me every Sunday just to check in, who texted our mom every morning to say good morning. On March 14th, 2025, Daniel disappeared. The last confirmed sighting of him was at 11:37 a.m. on campus security cameras, buying his usual coffee at the student union. Black coffee? No sugar, the same order he had made every day for 3 years. The barista remembered him, said he seemed normal, said he smiled, thanked her, walked out. What happened in the next 6 hours makes no sense. None of it makes any sense. At 4:15 p.m., Daniel appeared on security footage at a cannabis dispensary 12 miles from campus. He had changed clothes. When he left campus, he was wearing his university hoodie, jeans, and sneakers. At the dispensary, he wore a black jacket I had never seen before, dark pants, different shoes. The clerk said he bought a vape pen, Paid cash, left without saying much. Nobody knows where he went between 11:37 a.m. and 4:15 p.m. Nobody knows where he got the new clothes. Nobody knows why he went to a dispensary when he had never, not once in his life, expressed any interest in cannabis. At 6:42 p.m., traffic cameras caught Daniel's car, a 2022 Honda Civic, heading north on Interstate 5 toward the Columbia River. He was alone in the vehicle. His phone was on, pinging cell towers, moving with the car. At 7:19 p.m., his phone went dark. The last ping placed it near Sawvi Island, a nature area northwest of Portland. His car was found 3 days later in a parking lot on the island, doors unlocked, keys in the ignition, wallet on the passenger seat with all his credit cards and his student ID still inside. His phone was found 8 miles away in a ditch along Highway 30, screen shattered, SIM card removed. On April 2, 2025, 19 days after he disappeared, a kayaker found Daniel's body in the Willamette River, caught in tree branches near the Fremont Bridge, in downtown Portland. The medical examiner ruled it a drowning. Officially, they said he had consumed alcohol and cannabis, became disoriented, and accidentally fell into the water. But here is what they will not tell you. Here is what I had to fight for weeks to get from the autopsy report. Daniel had no water in his lungs. None. Which means he was already dead when he went into the river. The official report lists cause of death as drowning, but the evidence says he stopped breathing before he hit the water. There were bruises on his wrists and ankles. Ligature marks. Like he had been restrained. The medical examiner called them inconsistent with drowning, but refused to change the cause of death. And here is the part that still gives me nightmares. When they found Daniel, he was missing both shoes and his jacket. In March in Oregon, the water temperature is 45 degrees. If he had fallen in accidentally, he would have been wearing shoes. He would have been fully dressed. But he was not. He was in just a t-shirt and jeans, no shoes, no jacket, like someone had stripped him before putting him in the water. The police called it an accidental drowning. Closed the case in 6 weeks. Said Daniel must have been experimenting with drugs, made bad choices, wandered to the river, fell in. They said young people do this all the time. They said we needed to accept it and move on. But I could not accept it. Because the more I looked into Daniel's death, the more I realized he was not alone. He was not even close to alone. I started searching online. Started reading everything I could find about young men who drown in rivers. And what I found made my blood run cold. Between 1997 and 2025, over 80 college-age men have drowned in rivers and lakes across the Midwest and Pacific Northwest. 80. All of them young, most of them white. Almost all of them students. Almost all of them athletic, popular, high-achieving. Almost all of them last seen leaving bars or parties. Almost all of them found in water days or weeks later. La Crosse, Wisconsin. 8 drownings between 1997 and 2006. All young men, all college students, all found in the Mississippi River. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Chris Jenkins, 21 years old, University of Minnesota student, disappeared on Halloween night 2002 after leaving a bar. Found in the Mississippi River 4 months later. Initially ruled accidental drowning. Later changed to homicide after his family hired private investigators who proved the body position and lack of water in the lungs indicated he was dead before entering the water. Boston, Massachusetts. 12 young men drowned in the Charles River between 2004 and 2015. All college students. All after nights out drinking. All ruled accidental. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Dakota James, 23 years old, disappeared in January 2017 after leaving a bar. Found in the Ohio River 40 days later, with minimal decomposition despite being in freezing water for over a month. Ruled accidental drowning. Collegeville, Minnesota. Joshua Gamond, 20 years old, St. John's University student, disappeared in November 2002 after leaving a party. Last seen walking toward his dorm. Never found. Extensive searches of campus lakes found nothing. Case remains open. New Hampshire. Maura Murray, 21 years old, nursing student, disappeared in February 2004 after crashing her car. Never found. Case remains open. Texas. Jason Landry, 21 years old, Texas State University student, disappeared in December 2020 after crashing his car. His clothes were found scattered near the crash site. His body has never been found. Wisconsin. Elliot Heinz, 22 years old, graduate student, disappeared in July 2025 after a night out in La Crosse. Found in the Mississippi River days later. Ruled accidental drowning. Over and over and over again. The same pattern. Young men. College students. Athletic. Successful. Smart. Last seen leaving social events. Found in water. Ruled accidental drowning. But here is what makes it even stranger. In at least 45 of these cases, investigators found graffiti near where the bodies were recovered, or where they are believed to have entered the water. The same symbol painted on walls, bridges, trees, concrete pillars. A smiley face. Crude, hand-painted smiley faces. Different colors, different sizes, but always the same basic design. A circle, 2 dots for eyes, a curved line for a smile, and always near the water. In 2008, retired New York Police Department detective Kevin Gannon and his partner Anthony Duarte went public with what they called the smiley face murder theory. They claimed that a coordinated network of killers had been targeting young men across the country, drugging them, abducting them, killing them, and dumping their bodies in water to make the deaths look like accidents. They said the smiley faces were signatures, taunts, messages left by the killers to mock law enforcement. The FBI dismissed the theory, said there was no evidence of a serial killer or killers, said the deaths were tragic, but consistent with alcohol-related accidental drownings. Local police departments agreed, called it an urban legend, said young intoxicated men are at high risk for accidental drowning. But Gannon and Duarte kept investigating. They identified patterns in the cases that went beyond coincidence. They noted that the victims were often grabbed on the same nights in different cities, sometimes hundreds of miles apart, suggesting multiple killers working together. They found that the bodies often showed injuries inconsistent with drowning. They documented cases where victims had no water in their lungs but were still ruled drownings. And they found that in almost every case, the victims fit a specific profile. White males, ages 18 to 34. College students or recent graduates. Athletic build. Popular. High-achieving. And almost always intoxicated when they disappeared. The theory has been controversial from the start. Critics say it is pattern-seeking behavior, that humans naturally try to find connections where none exist. They point to statistics showing that men ages 18 to 34 are the most likely demographic to engage in binge drinking and risky behavior. They note that drowning is the third leading cause of unintentional death for this age group. They argue that smiley face graffiti is extremely common, and finding it near water in urban areas means nothing. But the families of the victims do not believe it. Chris Jenkins' parents fought for years to have his death reclassified as a homicide. Joshua Gamond's father has spent 2 decades demanding answers about what happened to his son. Dakota James's family hired private investigators who found evidence of foul play that police ignored. And now I am one of those families. One of the ones who knows something is wrong but cannot prove it. One of the ones being told to accept the official story even though the official story makes no sense. Because here's what they will not explain about Daniel. Why he changed clothes in the middle of the day. Where he went for nearly 5 hours. Why he suddenly drove to an isolated area he had never been to before. Why his phone was found miles from his car with the SIM card removed. Why he had ligature marks on his wrists and ankles. Why he had no water in his lungs. Why he was partially undressed when they found him. The police said he must have been meeting someone for drugs. But Daniel did not do drugs. The police said he must have been experimenting. But the Daniel I knew would never have gone to a random island alone to experiment with substances. The police said sometimes people just snap. But Daniel had no history of mental health issues, no recent stressors, no indication he was struggling. What I think happened, what I believe in my bones happened, is that someone took my brother. Someone grabbed him off campus or lured him somewhere between 11:37 a.m. and 4:15 p.m. Someone made him change clothes. Someone drove him to that dispensary, maybe to create a paper trail that made him look like he was using drugs. Someone took his car to Savoy Island. Someone threw his phone away miles from the scene. Someone killed him and put him in the Willamette River and hoped it would look like another drunk college kid who made bad choices. And I think whoever did it has done it before. Many times before. I think Daniel is part of a pattern that has been happening for decades. I think there is something hunting young men across this country, something organized and deliberate and terrifyingly good at making murders look like accidents. I know how this sounds. I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist, like a grieving sister who cannot accept that her brother made a terrible mistake. But I have spent 6 months digging into this. I have read hundreds of case files. I have spoken to families of other victims. I have looked at maps plotting where these drownings occur, and the pattern is undeniable. They cluster around college towns. They cluster around rivers. They happen most frequently in the Midwest and Northeast, but they are spreading. Portland had 3 similar cases in the last decade before Daniel. Seattle has had 5. San Diego had 2. And in almost every case, the official explanation is the same. Young man, drinking, fell in water, drowned, tragic accident. Nothing to see here. Move along. But I am not moving along. I am telling Daniel's story because someone needs to pay attention. Someone needs to connect these dots. Someone needs to ask why so many brilliant, successful, careful young men are ending up dead in rivers, under circumstances that do not add up. I am telling you this because if you have a son, a brother, a boyfriend, a friend who fits this profile, you need to warn them. Tell them to never walk alone at night near water. Tell them to watch their drinks. Tell them to always leave parties with friends, never alone. Tell them that there is something out there, something we do not understand, and it is taking them. The Center for Homicide Research published a report in 2012, trying to debunk the smiley face murder theory. They said it was an urban legend fueled by grief, and the human need to find patterns. They said the graffiti was coincidental. They said the demographic most likely to drown accidentally is exactly the demographic being targeted. They said there was no evidence of a nationwide network of killers. But the report also acknowledged something important. It acknowledged that homicide by drowning is extremely rare. It acknowledged that the method of staging deaths to look like accidents is highly unusual. It acknowledged that the cases share eerie similarities that warrant further investigation. And yet, no further investigation has happened. The FBI closed its review in 2008. Local police departments continue to rule these deaths as accidents. Families continue to be told to accept that their sons just made bad choices. I filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the city of Portland, demanding they reopen Daniel's case. My lawyer says we have a good chance. The ligature marks alone should have triggered a homicide investigation. The missing water in the lungs should have changed the cause of death. The unexplained gaps in his timeline should have been investigated thoroughly. But even if we win, even if they reopen his case, I know what will happen. They will look at the evidence again. They will say there is not enough to prove foul play. They will say it is just another tragic drowning. They will close it again. Because admitting that Daniel was murdered means admitting that dozens, maybe hundreds of other deaths were also murders. It means admitting that law enforcement across multiple states has been ruling homicides as accidents for over 20 years. It means admitting that someone, or multiple someones, have been killing young men with impunity while police departments look the other way. And nobody wants to admit that. Nobody wants to open that door. So I am opening it. I am standing here and saying it out loud. My brother was murdered. Chris Jenkins was murdered. Dakota James was likely murdered. Joshua Gimond likely did not drown. Maura Murray likely did not just vanish. Jason Landry did not just strip off his clothes and wander into the wilderness. These are not accidents. These are not coincidences. These are not isolated incidents of young men making bad choices. This is a pattern. This is deliberate. This is organized. And it is still happening. Just last year in La Crosse, Wisconsin, another young man drowned in the Mississippi River. Another college student. Another athlete. Another night out drinking. Another body found days later. Another ruling of accidental drowning. In Houston, Texas, in 2025, 16 bodies were pulled from city bayous in a single year. 16. Many of them young men. Some in their 20s, some older, but all found in water. All initially ruled accidental. Police said it was just homeless people falling in. The mayor said drownings in Houston bayous are not a new phenomenon. But Kevin Gannon, the retired detective who has been tracking these cases for over 15 years, said he had never seen drowning numbers like that. One body every other day in the same location. All in water. All ruled accidental. When does coincidence become conspiracy? When does tragedy become pattern? When does accident become murder? I do not know where the line is. But I know Daniel's death crossed it. I think about his last hours. I think about what he must have felt. Whether he was scared. Whether he knew what was happening. Whether he called out for help that never came. I think about him alone. Cold. Restrained. Knowing he was going to die. I think about him in the water, already gone. Floating until someone found him 19 days later. And I think about all the others. All the Chris Jenkinses, and Dakota Jameses, and Joshua Garmans. All the families like mine being told to accept the unacceptable. All the mothers who know in their hearts their sons did not just fall in. We are not crazy. We are not in denial. We are not unable to accept that our loved ones made mistakes. We are looking at evidence that does not match the official story. We are asking questions that deserve answers. We are demanding investigations that should have happened from the start. And we are being ignored. So, I am putting this out there. I am posting it on Reddit, on forums, on true crime sites, anywhere people will read it. I am begging anyone who has information about Daniel's death to come forward. I am begging anyone who has lost someone to a similar drowning to reach out. I am begging law enforcement to look at the pattern, really look at it, and tell me with a straight face that 80+ drownings of young men fitting the exact same profile over 25 years is just coincidence. Because I do not believe it. And somewhere deep down, I do not think you believe it either. Daniel deserved better. He deserved a real investigation. He deserved justice. He deserved to live. Instead, he is a statistic in a file marked accidental drowning. Another name on a list nobody wants to acknowledge. Another young man who supposedly just made bad choices. But he did not. He did not make bad choices. He made the same choices he made every day. He went to class. He bought coffee. And then, something happened to him. Something terrible. Something nobody wants to admit is possible. I am his sister. I am his voice now. And I am telling you, this is not over. This will never be over until someone pays attention. Until someone investigates. Until someone stops calling these murders accidents. Watch your sons. Watch your brothers. Watch your friends. Tell them to be careful near water. Tell them to never go anywhere alone. Tell them that there is something out there that nobody wants to talk about, but it is real. And if it happens to someone you love, if they disappear after a night out and turn up in a river weeks later, do not accept the first explanation you are given. Demand a real autopsy. Demand toxicology reports. Demand answers. Fight for them the way I am fighting for Daniel. Because they deserve it. And because if we do not fight, if we just accept that young men drown accidentally at rates far exceeding statistical probability, then whoever is doing this wins. They keep killing. They keep getting away with it. They keep leaving smiley faces at crime scenes, taunting us, daring us to figure it out. And we keep calling it coincidence. Daniel was 23 years old. He was brilliant, kind, careful, and loved. He had a future. He had dreams. He had people who needed him. And now he is gone. Drowned, they say. Accident, they say. But I say murdered. And I will keep saying it until someone listens. This is not grief. This is not denial. This is the truth. The water takes them all. And nobody wants to know why.